Winter has a way of transforming places we know into something, well, a little spookier. As if the snow, stillness, and dark long nights aren't enough, some of the world's most haunted locations take on an even more chilling atmosphere when covered in ice and frost. So, grab yourself a hot drink, wrap yourself up, and join me as we dive into Ghost Stories of the Snow. These are tales of haunted hotels, forests, and fortresses with spirits who just can't seem to let it go. Hello, friends. My name is Marcia, and this is Midwest Ghost Hunters. This one's famous not just because of The Shining. The Stanley Hotel is a beautiful, historic hotel nestled in the Colorado Rockies, where ghostly sightings are as common as snowy nights. Built in 1909 by Freeland Oscar Stanley, the hotel originally served as a retreat for wealthy visitors looking to escape city life, and it seems some have overstayed their welcome. Guests report everything from piano music playing itself in the ballroom to ghostly children giggling in the hallways. Room 217, where Stephen King stayed, is allegedly a hotspot for paranormal activity, with many guests waking up to find their belongings mysteriously unpacked or even moved around. Rumor has it that Mrs. Wilson, a former housekeeper, still haunts the room, making sure everything is in its proper place. Next up, we're headed to Canada's Banff Springs Hotel, also known as the Castle of the Rockies. It's got sweeping mountain views, luxury suites, and oh yeah, a few ghosts too. The Fairmont Banff Springs, formerly and commonly known as just the Banff Springs Hotel, is a historic hotel in Western Canada, located in Banff, Alberta. At an elevation of 4,600 feet above sea level, the hotel overlooks a valley toward Mount Rundle, situated within the Rocky Mountain mountain range. Opened in 1888 by the Canadian Pacific Railroad, it is one of the earliest Canadian Grand Railroad hotels. The original 5-story wooden hotel was designed by Bruce Price and was able to accommodate 280 guests. With expansions, the original structure became the North Wing, which was eventually destroyed by fire in April of 1926. The main hotel consists of a 1914 11-story center tower designed by Walter S. Painter, a 1927 North Wing, and a 1928 South Wing built on either side of the central tower. Interesting tidbit: the hotel was originally designed to face the mountains. However, an error by the builder changed the orientation of the hotel, causing it to face away from the mountain view. Legend has it that a young bride, who tripped and fell to her death on the staircase, is still seen haunting the halls in her wedding dress, desperately searching for her groom. Then there's the ghostly bellhop named Sam, a friendly apparition who helps guests with their luggage before vanishing into thin air. Stay here if you like, but don't be surprised if you find a ghost in the hallway as you fetch ice for your hot cocoa. This location is legendary among ghost hunters. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, an abandoned tuberculosis hospital, may be one of the most haunted places in the United States, and the winter season just adds to the creepy factor. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium is located in the Waverly Hills neighborhood of Louisville, Kentucky. In the early 1900s, the area was ravaged by an outbreak of tuberculosis, also known as the White Plague, which prompted the construction of the new hospital. The sanatorium opened in 1910 as a 2-story facility able to accommodate between 40 and 50 patients. The hospital closed in 1961 due to the success of the antibiotic drug streptomycin, which lowered the need for such a facility. At some point, plans were made to turn the abandoned hospital into a hotel. That's no longer the case. Waverly was home to thousands of tuberculosis patients, many of whom never made it out. People report seeing shadow figures, hearing disembodied screams, and even encountering the infamous creeper that crawls along the walls. And if you're up for a spine-chilling visit, check out the Death Tunnel, where winter winds whistle through as if carrying the whispers of long-lost souls. Welcome to the Sagamore Hotel, where the snow glistens on Lake George and the spirits play on the abandoned golf course. The Sagamore opened in 1883, financed by a number of prominent summer residents. It soon succeeded in attracting a wealthy clientele. The hotel was named after the Sagamore, an American Indian character in the James Fenimore Cooper novel, The Last of the Mohicans. Several of Lake George's nearby islands are also named after characters from the book. Twice damaged by fire in 1893 and 1914, the Sagamore was rebuilt in early 1921. Throughout its history, the Sagamore has been a social center for wealthy tourists and residents of Millionaires Row, the stately mansions along Lake George's western shore. The hotel eventually fell into disrepair before closing its doors in 1981. 1983, 100 years after its construction, a Philadelphia real estate developer purchased the hotel and restored it. The most famous ghost here? A young boy who haunts the golf course, playing tricks on anyone who dares cross his territory. Guests report hearing his laughter and sometimes even seeing him standing in the snow before he fades away. Just imagine, you're taking a scenic winter stroll, and there he is, a phantom child who really loves a snow day. Let's make our way to West Virginia and check out the Transalgan Lunatic Asylum, a place so haunted that it's made even seasoned paranormal investigators jittery, and the winter chill only adds to the creep factor. The Transalgan Lunatic Asylum was a psychiatric hospital located in western West Virginia, and known by other names such as West Virginia Hospital for the Insane and Weston State Hospital. Construction of the hospital started in 1858, and the first patients were admitted in October of 1864. But due to the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861, the hospital was not completed until 20 years later, in 1881. Originally designed to accommodate 250 patients, it became overcrowded in the 1950s with 2,400 patients. The main building of the hospital is said to be one of the largest hand-cut stone masonry buildings in the United States. Opened in 1864, this asylum once housed thousands of patients, many of whom suffered deeply both from their conditions and the primitive treatments they endured. It closed in 1994, but visitors say that the spirits of former patients remain. Winter visitors report hearing cries echoing through the empty halls, and shadow figures are frequently spotted roaming the corridors. One spirit, named Lily, is said to be that of a young girl who enjoys playing with the guests, so much so that people often leave her toys and candy as gifts. Next up is the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, dubbed America's Most Haunted Hotel. This grand old building looks lovely in the snow, until you remember who's hanging around inside. The Crescent Hotel was built in 1886 as a resort for the rich and famous, but quickly became unmanageable and fell into disrepair. Beginning in 1908, the hotel became a school and eventually a college before shutting down in 1934. In 1937, it was turned into a hospital and health resort by Norman Baker, a quack doctor who ran it as a hospital through the 1930s, claiming he could cure cancer. Patients were subjected to horrifying treatments that did more harm than good, and many died within its walls. Today, Baker's ghost is said to roam the halls along with former patients who never left. Guests have reported seeing a man in Victorian clothing sitting at the foot of their beds, doors opening and closing by themselves, and cold spots, perfect for winter, where temperatures drop suddenly, even inside. Deadwood, South Dakota is famous for its Wild West past, and the Bullock Hotel, built by Sheriff Seth Bullock in 1895, is at the heart of the town's haunted history. The historic Bullock Hotel is located at the corner of Wall Street and Main Street in Deadwood, South Dakota. It was built around 1895 and is the oldest hotel in Deadwood, still having 28 of its original 63 rooms. Seth Bullock was Deadwood's first sheriff, and apparently he's still keeping a close eye on his hotel. Visitors report seeing Bullock's ghost in his old office and hearing footsteps down the hall when no one else is around. Some say he even enforces quiet hours after dark, so don't be surprised if you get a ghostly knock on your door if you're being too loud. In winter, the hotel's historic ambiance feels like a step back in time, complete with the spectral presence of Deadwood's lawmen. Let's take a trip up north to Alaska, where winter nights are long and cold, and the hauntings at the historic Anchorage Hotel only seem to intensify as the snow piles up outside. The historic Anchorage Hotel is a hotel located, of course, in Anchorage, Alaska. The original hotel building was built in 1916. The current hotel building, which was constructed as an annex to the hotel to house additional guests, opened in 1936. In the 1950s, the hotel declined in status and the buildings suffered from a lack of maintenance. The original hotel building was demolished in the 1960s while the annex became the Hotel Ronald Lee. After a number of ownership changes, Bob and Carolyn Newman rehabilitated the hotel in the late 1980s. After its renovation, the hotel regained its original name and now operates as the historic Anchorage Hotel. One of the most frequently seen ghostly spirits is Police Chief Jack Sturgis, who was mysteriously murdered right outside the hotel in 1921. Guests have reported seeing him roaming the halls, his face hidden as he seemingly searches for answers about his unsolved death. There's also the ghost of a bride who never made it to her wedding, and a little boy seen running down the corridors during the darkest winter nights. Some guests even claim they've had their covers pulled off in the middle of the night. Let's just say they got a little more than the usual turn-down service. Back to New York we go, to Fort William Henry, a site with a dark history of war and tragedy. Fort William Henry was a British fort at the southern end of Lake George. The fort's construction was ordered by Sir William Johnson in September 1755 during the French and Indian War as a staging ground for attacks against the French position at Fort St. Frederick. In February 1757, a governor-general in Canada sent about 1,500 men to attack the fort. That initial French attack failed. A renewed, stronger French attack was begun in August of 1757. It lasted about 6 days and was successful in causing the British to abandon the fort. After the siege, the French destroyed the fort before returning to Canada. Interesting tidbit: the site lay abandoned for 200 years until a replica fort was reconstructed in the 1950s. During the production of the 1992 epic war film The Last of the Mohicans, a $1 million copy of Fort William Henry was built on Lake James in western North Carolina. Fort William Henry was the site of a bloody massacre during the French and Indian War, and it's believed that many restless spirits remain. Winter visitors have heard battle cries, footsteps crunching in the snow, and shadowy figures near the old barracks. It's like the spirits of the soldiers never left, only now they're cold and cranky. Finally, let's wrap things up with a visit to Old Faithful Inn, right in the heart of snowy Yellowstone National Park. The Old Faithful Inn is a hotel with a view of the Old Faithful Geyser, located in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. The inn has a multi-story log lobby flanked by long frame wings containing guest rooms. In the western portion of the park, it sits at an approximate elevation of 7,300 feet above sea level. With its log and limb lobby and massive 85-foot stone fireplace, the inn is an example of the golden age of rustic resort architecture, a style which is also known as National Park Service rustic. It's one of the few log hotels still standing in the United States and was the first of the great park lodges of the American West. Initial construction was carried out over the winter of 1903 and 1904, largely using locally obtained materials including lodgepole pine and rhyolite stone. When the Old Faithful Inn first opened in the spring of 1904, it boasted electric lights and steam heat. The structure is the largest log hotel in the world, possibly even the largest log structure in the world. This rustic lodge is home to ghostly whispers, footsteps, and sightings of a woman in a long dress who strolls the hallway. The staff have heard their fair share of ghostly stories, and visitors say the spirits are just as active as the park's famous geysers, even in the depths of winter. Thanks for braving these chilling winter haunts with me. Whether you're planning a visit or just keeping these stories in mind as the snow falls, remember, winter may be the most spirited season of all. Until next time, stay warm and keep an eye out for things that go bump in the snow.